What's up, guys? Good morning. It is 8:12 on Monday morning. Hope you guys create an amazing week. I wanted to walk through a NPV example. So on this channel, I like to back things up with numbers because that's what I enjoy, and I'll use this for like real estate because a lot of people kind of get the theory about, hey, I'm gonna borrow at a fixed rate of say 5%, and what's going to happen over the next 20, 30 years, right? More than likely, rents will go up over that time. More than likely, you'll get appreciation. More than likely, there'll be a tax benefit here in the United States. And when you factor those things in, you get a return value, right? So I put together an example to help illustrate how this is played out in corporate finance. And I wanted to run through the numbers with you. To give a little bit of context, NPV is net present value. And we call that net present value because if I were to say borrow money today, right, to get a house, but it takes time to play out into the future, how can I tell today if that's a prudent decision or not? And you can just try to estimate that. And how you would estimate that from a quantitative standpoint, right? You would take a look at the future cash flows and discount them back to today, right? Because I can't really compare cash flows today to cash flows into the future because the time difference, right? So I have to take the future cash flows over here and bring them back over to here. And in order to do that, you have to discount them, right? Because if I owed you $1,000, right? And if I was like, hey, can I pay you back in 2 years? You would want more money, right? And the reason for that is because I could take that $1,000 and invest it into some type of bond or something, or loan it out to somebody at, say, 5% or something, and I can get $50 per year so that I pay you back $1,000 in 2 years, but I get to get the difference. So it's essentially that idea, but the actual math behind it. So for this example, we'll just use it, and I just chose 12. Right, so say we're doing 12 years or something like that. We're borrowing, and you can add a zero to this if that is helpful to you or not. I'm saying we're borrowing $1,000, right? And we have a 5% annual APY, which is the annual percentage yield. So every year we have to make a $50 payment for the next 12 years, and then there's a balloon payment. So a balloon payment, think of a balloon, right? It's one balloon. So that's what they mean by when you hear something where they talk about terms being a balloon payment. It means there's one payment at the end that takes care of the principal. So $50 per year for the next 12 years. In the 12th year, there's two payments, right? There's the $50 payment of interest, and there's the $1,000 payment for principal. And you could do this. We could do 10,000. We could do what. It doesn't really matter what the dollar amount is. That can be adjusted. So, if you went through and you just took all of those payments together and you added them up and you tried to compare them to what you got today, it would be $1,600, right? $50 per period for the next 12 periods, 12 years or whatever. All those added up to $600 plus the $1,000 you get back at the end, so $1,600. But that's not exactly accurate because they're in different time periods, right? As the foundation that we just laid, 2 years from today, the same $1,000 is not worth the same. And you can also factor in inflation and stuff like that, but just from the standpoint of an investment, right? I could take that $1,000 and invest it, make 5% on that, and I get to keep that money if I don't have to pay any interest on that, right? So in real estate, right, you get a fixed, right? We're talking about residential real estate, not commercial, and you wouldn't get terms like this on a residential, it would be amortized, but just for illustration purposes, you can do exactly the same thing if it was amortized, same exact thing, the numbers would just change slightly. So if you have the total, right, and we know what, then we would want to go through and do our analysis of the property. So we're going to look at the rents. We're going to factor in some type of, so this is what you would do if you were doing commercial property, or if you were working for a company in their corporate finance and they wanted you to figure out the cash flow, like what if something is profitable, right? So you'd use the return. How do you calculate the fucking return, right? So you'd want to take a look at the cash flow. You'd want to take a look at potential appreciation. You'd want to factor in the tax benefits, right? So taking those together in aggregate, you can use that as the return number, because you are paying 5, but you're getting more than 5, right? So if you got, say if you paid 5 and you got 4%, right? Over the course of the next 12 years on your return, you would, if you take all those payments, right? And what we end up doing is we have, in year 1, we have to discount it 1 year. In year 4, we have to bring it back for 4 years. And the simple calculation on the math on that is the payment divided by 1 plus the return rate raised to the number of periods out we are. For let me show you what that looks like from the piece of paper. Some people enjoy that a little bit more. So if you're trying to calculate the present value of something, right? So we'll just call that PV equals the PMT. PMT could be a single payment, or it could be like a series payment, like 50-50-50, or it could be that last payment, right? So we'll call that I, and then we'll say that's raised to the N. And I should have used probably a black marker here to help illustrate this point here way better. And what that does, right? What this calculation does is it brings the future payments into the present. So if we have a timeline right here, and this is 1, and there's a PMT here, I'm going to just show you. So this is what the calculation looks like. We get the payment in the future divided by 1, right? That's just a numeric 1. I just have sloppy handwriting. Plus the return, we could call this R, we can call it N, raised to the number of periods. So where is this payment coming from? Is it a year and a half down? Then it would be 1.5, right? If it's 6 years out, then this is going to be 6, right? You can also do this on a monthly basis too, if you'd prefer, if you were looking at an amortized loan. And then this is what effectively this calculation does, is it takes this, right, in 1 year out, takes this payment, brings it back to today's dollars, right? Because you probably have heard, back in 1974, I was making $24,000 or $50,000. But in today's dollars, that equals, whatever it is, $74,000.96, right? You've probably heard that or read that at some point in your life. And this is effectively what that does, except for the I in that example is the inflation. So you'd use CPI or something like that. Consumer Price Index. In this example, we use the return on our investment. So we've got our investment right here, and just say the tax benefits come out to be, say, 3%. We also get a 4% return on our money, like the cash on cash part of it. And then we get 3% for the tax benefit, 3% for inflation, and this is over a long period of time, or appreciation. We'll factor in that's the historical rate or whatever, and we get a 4% on the cash on cash, right? So we have 3, and then 4 is 10. So using the same thing right here, right? This right here is going to be 10. This is going to be 50 in our example, right? Because we're borrowing $1,000 at 5%. I don't know if I mentioned that. That probably would have been helpful. So we're borrowing $1,000 for 12 years, 5% annual interest rate. Right? So in year one, this is what it would look like. So we would just plug all those in. Come over here. So we plug all those in. So we say the PV. What this means is the present value, right? That's that money from 1973 being brought to 2019, except for you doing it reverse, right? That's that money from 2020 being brought to 2019. So when you look at it this way, the payment is $50. The bottom, the denominator here, is 10%, and it's raised to the 1. So what that actually comes out to be is 45, meaning a payment, if we can earn 10% on our money, then we should borrow the fuck out of it, right? Because we can borrow at 5%, but we can make 10% on the money. So if you do this for all 12 periods, you get to calculate it all the way out into the future, and you discount it at a 10% interest rate, which is the rate of return that we're earning in this case, right? We're paying 5, but we're earning 10. You get to actually see what it is. So, and you can always just add zeros on here if that was the case, right? So we, over this course of the period, let me show you what I'm looking at here. Over this period, right? Here's the cost. This is the interest rate. This is the rate of return. This is the NPV, which is the net present value. That's in today's dollars, right? Think 1973 to 2019. Now, these are the payments right here. All the way out right here. And the reason you have 2 for 12, remember, it's because you have the interest payment and the balloon payment for the principal. Now, the sum, the dollar amount below that is that what we just talked about, right? That's the payment. If you look over there, that's the payment divided by 1 plus b raised to the n. And that would be the payment right here, this $1,000, divided by 1 plus, what is this one? These dollar signs just means holding that cell constant, 10%. Raised, this is the same, that little caret is the same thing as raising it to. This right here, this is the 12th period. So when you do the math on that, that $1,000 in 12 years, if you can earn 10% per year, is actually only worth, in today's dollars, $318. So that's a different way. This is how, if you were wanted to quantify everything, you could actually go through and quantify the results of your investments over time. I hope this video was interesting. If you guys have any questions, let me know down below in the comments. This is the kind of stuff that I enjoy, so you can do the same thing with a company. So it's called DCF, discounted cash flow. Or a lot of times people will use a discounted cash flow model to value a company, or they'll use a discounted cash flow model to get the NPV for a project or the acquisition of something in corporate finance. If you guys have any questions, let me know down below in the comments. I appreciate you guys. Don't forget to create an amazing week. Also, there's a little red button up there. Just press that subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this in the future. And my link for Instagram is in the description. If you guys have questions, reach out to me on there. Peace.